What is going on, everyone? Happy Monday night. Hope everyone's having an amazing start to their week, possibly. Lots of people getting into it. I'm going to add Mr. Dennis here right now. Should be all set. What's up, Dennis? How are you,
Hey,
man?
Mr. Jake, how you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
Sound great. Hold on, I got to check the levels. Got to check the gain. Sometimes I start yelling, Dennis. And so when I start yelling, hold on, I got to turn this off and listen to my own volume. All right, there we go. All right, Thomas went all out. He's got a Bud Light. Dennis, you're West Coast, right?
I'm in DC today and Miami tomorrow.
DC today, Miami tomorrow. All right, so do you have a cocktail? Do you have anything
I have pomegranate berry sparkling water.
with some vodka? I'm just going to
That's
assume.
right. We're gonna double fist this.
Yeah, there we go. I've got a little red wine. I just went down, had a little dinner, came back out. I'm in Austin right now. So it's been good. It was like, now the high is only like 90 right now, which is like quite a reprieve for us, which is fantastic. See, Austin is a little less yeehaw. You know what I mean? Yeah. Austin's like a little more like chill, you know?
Yeah,
that's why we moved.
Yeah.
We moved from Manhattan to here. So, you know, Austin was really our only option, we felt like. Don't get me wrong, lots of love Texas, right? To everybody in Texas. We got a lot of Texas fans. A lot of Texas fan now. There we go, Thomas. Thomas got his Bud Light. That's good to know. So, look, you know, we've had some interaction on LinkedIn. And, you know, I think I ran across an article that you had that got picked up by LinkedIn. Is that right? Yeah. Right? That it was like LinkedIn. Yeah. But one in particular, like it was around dwell time, which I thought was super interesting. And I think there's other things too that I think will be helpful. What's up, Adrian Fromberg Nagy? Hope you're doing amazing. John Blake, I'm drinking a Merlot from Napa. So everyone hates on Merlot. You know what I mean, Dennis? A lot of people hate on Merlot. They're like, oh, it's Merlot. Like Merlot is quite good. So tell me a little bit about kind of how you got deep into the algorithm stuff. You know, tell me a little bit about Blitz Metrics, how you all got into the algorithm game, and what made you kind of key in on dwell time, because we certainly saw it at literally almost that exact same time. You know, we were literally just reviewing like pre beginning of April, you know, views versus post, and it's pretty wild. So maybe tell us a little bit about, you know, how you all got into this, and then trends that you're seeing with your clients, or trends that you're seeing in terms of how others are optimizing.
Yep. So I'm a search engine engineer from over 20 years ago. All right. I built the analytics at Yahoo, which back then was the search engine.
The search engine. That's right. And my Yahoo Sports is still my go-to.
We're the dominant player in sports and mail and search and travel and shopping and personals and all that. And it's because we had a better algorithm that would show you whatever it was that you wanted. Now search is ubiquitous. It's a commodity. People don't see that as being special. But in order to figure out what people wanted to see, we had to crawl through all kinds of data, and there are all kinds of signals. And back then, there were people that were called webmasters that were trying to trick us.
Yeah,
think about all the things they would do to try to trick us by doing a -100, or, you know, black background, white,
there you go,
white, you know, text, or all, you know, links, and trying to post a certain frequency with certain anchor text, and, you know, link laundering layers, and all the kinds of tricks. So we knew
link laundering. What is link laundering? That sounds like particularly.
You know, so there's authority that comes from the sites that might mention you. So let's say that you're on CNN, or you have a high domain authority or high page rank, toolbar page rank site that links to you. That creates trust. And us as a search engine, we were trying to find signals that were so clean that spammers or overeager marketers couldn't trick us. And we found certain things. I'll tell you a few of them, which now are not really that special, but the number of unique linking domains. So that's kind of hard to do. If you're a spammer and you have 100 high domain authority sites that link to you, that's kind of hard to do. You can buy 1,000 links, but if they're from relevant neighbors, so, you know, domain relevancy and domain authority, and they occur at a normal looking frequency, and they don't have too much anchor text like cheap Viagra, then it might look legitimate. So back then to rank online, it was like trying to pass a lie detector test. And there's all the different signals that we are looking at from the search engine standpoint. And I represented Yahoo at a number of conferences, and people would try to trick me. They'd say, oh yeah, well, you're not going to catch my triangular linking mechanism. Like, dude, we can absolutely see that, right? And what would happen with link laundering is you'd buy a bunch of really cheap links, you'd run them through a series of sites, and those sites are basically like money laundering to then push to your money sites that you really want to rank on certain keywords. That way, the low quality of these feeder sites wouldn't hurt these key sites. Plus, you had plausible deniability because these sites up here that were your client sites, if they ever got in trouble, you could always claim, oh, it was someone else trying to blackball me or Google Bull me or other things like that, right? Remember, you could rank on, you could hurt competitors by buying cheap links to them.
Interesting. Right? So you'd penalize them.
Yeah.
All right. So
and they wouldn't know.
They'd have no idea. All right.
Yeah, they'd say, wow, my rankings went down. Now the same algorithmic factors back there in search were the same ones that moved into social networks. Because the only difference is that with social networks, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, is that you have more publishers. Because it used to be the only publishers we had were websites.
Yeah, exactly.
They were webmasters. And so webmasters, how did they vote for one another? By linking to each other, right? And then you have things like, no follow and other, how many links are on a page and page sculpting and sitemaps and all that. So imagine the framework of these objects, these different nodes in a graph that are linking to each other. And when you calculate a page rank, there's a settling of how much gets distributed. When you run the model a million times, eventually there's a certain amount that accumulates just naturally within each of the different nodes, right? Now, look at there being way more publishers, way more content being produced.
That's right.
The idea that people can tweet, they can post, they can whatever. It's still the same model though. You're still calculating authority and ranking by the same model.
Yep.
Now introduce video. Video is a weird bird because it is kind of like having a website as a particular post. Why? Because there's more signals associated with the video. With a video, you know how long they're watching, if they start, if they stop, if they engage along the way, if they hit rewind and whatnot. So the most dominant content on the social networks is what?
Well, it depends. On LinkedIn, it's text.
It depends. But on LinkedIn, it's a mix. But on all the other social networks, it's video.
100%.
And because of that, for example, on Facebook even devoted a whole another tab of analytics just to video.
That's right.
To tell you who they are, how long they're watching, creating custom audiences against particular videos, reusing videos, all kinds of other things. And the way I like to predict what's going to happen on LinkedIn is I look at what's going. This might offend some of my LinkedIn friends, but believe me, I'm hanging out.
Go ahead. I want to hear offend away. We need more. I've talked about this, Dennis. We need more offenders. LinkedIn right now is a massive echo chamber. Everyone is just like, oh, Dennis, really great insights. Oh, Susan. No one is like, hey, dude, what have you done? Like, you've been a sales rep for 3 years, bro. Or like you managed 2 sales teams that were like 10 people. Like, I feel like we need more. If LinkedIn is really going to grow, you have to have both sides of the story, right? And so I think offend away. I think my audience in particular, they're going to love it.
Okay, so I'm a LinkedIn white hat spammer, okay? And I don't just take someone else's opinion, and I especially don't take LinkedIn's opinion. I test it.
That's right.
So as an example, a couple of years ago, I was playing with 2 of my friends, Josh Fector and Larry Kim. Larry Kim, until recently, was the #1 most viewed profile on LinkedIn, ahead of President Obama.
Wow.
And Josh Fector is the guy who coined the... shoot, Mark, what's that called? What's that thing called? The broetry, right?
Broetry, yeah, there we go.
And so I thought, okay, let's do a little experiment. We will share on LinkedIn the exact same post and see how it does. And I happen to have 10 other profiles I can log into, and I'll post the same thing. And in fact, I did it over and over again just to see what the impact of having the same content but a different audience.
Right.
Or posting at a different time of day or engaging versus not engaging, to try to separate out those factors as best as possible. Otherwise, it's more of a, well, I heard someone else say that this is what you do on LinkedIn.
That's right.
You need to post one sentence at a time and don't post more than twice per day, and make sure it's, at least 500 characters, but not, 1,200 characters, or like all these different things.
Right.
Thursday morning at 10 o'clock is the best time to post it. Garbage, right? Just like on Twitter. Oh, we should have at least 3 hashtags and make sure you have one image. And here's what I found. Some posts, like I had one post organically that went to 2 million impressions and 15,000 likes organically, just one of my regular posts. And I had only...
Was that a copy and paste post? Was that one of the copy and paste ones?
No, it was one that I wrote very carefully to try to manipulate for engagement.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
And right, so it was intentful. And what did it have, before we move on, because I think this is important? Tell me what, because the broetry thing is not easy, but it's an easy one to mimic, right? Like at least you can mimic the format of it. So what did this post do to get 2 million views? 2 million.
It's easy to mimic the format, just like it's easy to mimic someone else's mannerisms, but not actually have the genius behind it. This particular post was, I think I started off by saying, she said no to me, and I couldn't believe it, or something like that. That's the first line. Then new line, new paragraph, because I had $100,000 job that I did for only $1,000 because I wanted the deal, or I wanted to be nice. And then I went on and on about how I missed the client expectations because I think I called her a freetard or some kind of word, maybe not as offensive as that, but I intentionally lured people in. And I found depending on, because when you're scrolling through the newsfeed, you get the 2 lines, and right where it gets cut off, it goes see more ...
Yeah.
Right. And if we can get people to click, and this is still true, a lot of people who are testing, they won't tell you something until it's already been used, but I'll actually tell you stuff that still works. Right. When you get people clicking, for example, on see more, that sends a signal to the algorithm. That's the equivalent of dwell time, right?
Yeah.
Or when someone likes, comments, and shares, those have different weightings. And my friends at LinkedIn have confirmed that, right? A comment's worth more than a like, and a share is worth more than a comment.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And likewise, if someone watches a video, that is worth, and stays for 30 seconds, that's worth more than them scrolling by, or, the longer they stay. So dwell time, the reason why we can't isolate dwell time cleanly is that it is a self-fulfilling, there's a confounding factor in that the longer someone stays on a post, then the more engagement they're going to have.
Right.
And there's no way.
Why is video then, but why do you feel like video can never get any views, right? Even like a top performing video will still only get, and it's only counting, somehow the algorithm is so basic, and this is what we've seen, Dennis, so I'd love to get your take. The algorithm is so basic that it counts a view of X on the video as like the total view. So if you get a video view, like a view that has 10,000, on a video, that's like top 1% video. And I can't figure it out. I can't figure out why there's such a ridiculous under indexing on videos. So tell me how you've seen that, like videos in particular, because I'm super interested. I get
probably 4 to 5 times the reach on LinkedIn on video than I do on Facebook. So probably my average, and I'm not a big deal, I don't even post that often, I probably get 10,000 views on my average video, and I might only get 2,000 or 3,000 on Facebook. And on Facebook, I have a blue check mark. On Facebook, I'm maxed out. At the 5,000 limit. LinkedIn, I'm at whatever, 28,000. So arguably, it's not.
You're almost there. You're almost there, man.
Yeah, and I'm having to delete people because I'm afraid of hitting the 30 and then running out.
Well, just so you know, so new hack, like 5 months ago. Now, when you delete a connection, it deletes them as a follow. Just a FYI, which is a new thing for us.
Yeah. But here's, as you know, LinkedIn being more primitive, they have to be more primitive because there's not enough engagement. It is a gold rush, and thus any engagement pretty much drives a notification. So if you get anyone to do anything, it'll say, Jake liked this, and then surface more views. So
right, exactly.
Something getting more views that then drives more engagement is chicken and egg, because we don't, because they both drive each other, which then drives more dwell time, which then drives more of these signals until it kind of peters out. Therefore, I found that if you have a good post, and I've literally taken the same posts on other people's LinkedIn. So by the way, if you see some weird thing on my LinkedIn, it's probably because I'm testing.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you see one for me that has that's highly loaded emotional content, it's not because I'm sad or I'm depressed or I'm frustrated, or I'm intentionally testing by using those kinds of words to see whether people will click see more. I'm looking at the ratio of my impressions and reach relative to my engagement. And I find that, for example, once it goes below 1.5% of engagement relative to impressions, then it kind of falls off the newsfeed.
Okay.
I find interesting. And that occurs over time, because if you take a snapshot of the first 5 minutes, first hour, first 4 hours, you're going to see that you're going to see the wave initially be low, then it goes up, then it goes all the way back down in terms of net engagement rate. And if you look at a post only in hindsight, 4 or 5 days later or a week later, you might conclude the engagement rate's lower, but that's a weighted average, because once it's already exhausted at the very, it's already weighed that all in.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen that across the board.
You've got to take the snapshot at, say, 4 hours, 1 day, and 3 days. And we find that the decay factor on LinkedIn, if you keep engaging, that post will produce for 4 days, maybe 5 days.
Yeah.
And Josh Fechter's seen the same kind of thing. Larry Kim and I have tested it. You can, Facebook, it's maybe 8 hours to 12 hours. LinkedIn, you have a few days if you keep engaging, because then it increases the engagement rate to get above that percentage and increases the number of notifications that you're getting. So it continues to create frequency and it overcomes that decay factor.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen that the golden hour, right? Like we've seen consistently, like really what matters. And what we've been doing too is testing is what we've been doing. I think this could be interesting. What we've been doing is, let's say we have a concept for a post. We'll put it out first 10 minutes. And we do this very infrequently, but I think it's important, is we'll see. And if for some reason it's not averaging for our audience, it's about, like, if it's early morning during the week, a minute, let's call it, right? Or whatever, X, or if it's not like a different time, it may be like X likes or interactions per whatever views. We'll delete, and then immediately LinkedIn, what we found, LinkedIn does not punish you like Instagram. Like if you delete the post and immediately repost it, LinkedIn's just like, I don't see a post, so we'll just go post it.
You can even edit the post too, which is usually a no-no.
Yeah, that's what we'll do, is we usually won't edit. If it's that new, then we'll just delete, we'll change the headline, and then it's the same context. Yeah. Yeah.
And all of us, we know things like, including links in the post.
Doesn't work,
And there's all the things that you've heard from other people, but here's how I look at it. I view Facebook as a crystal ball for where LinkedIn will be in 3 years. So whatever is happening or working on Facebook, I know is going to eventually make its way to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Not just in the way that the feed is designed. The feeds look almost the same now.
Yeah.
Right? It used to be that, do you remember when LinkedIn didn't allow profile pictures? And when LinkedIn
LinkedIn had profile pictures.
No. Years ago, maybe 10 years ago, they didn't have profile pictures.
Yeah, maybe.
I remember this because I remember on social networks, anytime you signed up for a new social network, you had to upload your headshot or whatever, and LinkedIn didn't have that. And so I was just kind of used to that. So when the day when LinkedIn allowed that, I thought, oh, they're copying the other social networks. And that's when I knew that's what they were going to do.
That's
and then, of course, they got bought by Microsoft because their ad system sucks. But then Microsoft ad system really sucks.
Why not Bing? You don't think the Bing engine wasn't like the magic engine?
Are you kidding? The whole point of search engines is how well they monetize against ads, not how well search results are static. The ad auction is the most difficult part.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know this because that's what I did.
That was your world. That was your world. So let's talk a little bit about dwell time.
Yeah.
I'll try to give what we've started to test is, again, like some very basics, whether it's using images, whether it's using long form. And that's really why I feel like Broetry was born. Broetry was born to hack dwell time. And I think a lot of people, it does make it a little easier to read. Like, I won't totally hate on it. We'll use posts, that make it a little easier to read. It's also a fad, right? Like, there will become a time when Broetry will just look silly.
Yeah.
And it will get penalized, or if the post is if it's under X characters, but over X length, it's gonna get penalized. It'll happen. So talk a little bit about dwell time, because that's something that I think the average person posting either, one, doesn't really understand, or two, doesn't care about, and really to understand, how much maybe they should think about it. So how did you analyze dwell time?
Okay, so we can go into the geekery of the things that we've done to test, but for everyone else, I will say something that I think will be practical and useful. And that is, don't think about dwell time as some sort of ratio you need to hit or some kind of trick. Think of it as the higher dwell time is based on telling a more compelling story.
Right.
And there's all sorts of weird things about, time of day that you can post, or calls to action, or the different components of sequencing people along. But I think the number one thing is, what can you do emotionally to keep people staying longer? Like Jake Paul's a friend of mine, and he does that masterfully on YouTube. And his average watch time is 7.5 to 8 minutes on a 15-minute video. Fantastic, right? So if he were to do the same thing on LinkedIn, which he doesn't because he's not on LinkedIn, I mean, it's like 200 whatever connections on LinkedIn, then you want to have a hook in the first 2 lines to be able to get the see more. If people get to the see more, then you can go into describing the problem and getting people to engage and start thinking about it and building up enough of an aha serendipitous moment, because the serendipity is based on either novelty. Well, actually, it's 2 things that have to happen for it to go crazy with sharing, which then increases all the other factors. There's serendipity and there's novelty. Or I'm sorry, serendipity, which is the novelty, and there's identity, where it's something that I feel like that's something I would say
exactly
reflects something that's
right
for me. And if you can structure that, whether it's broetry, whether it's encapsulated in a video, whether it's a series of images. And LinkedIn, I love doing, I find a simple thing is just uploading as many images as I can. And that does work, because then people are going to click to see, the rest of them. There's all kinds of tricks to get people to click, but the key with dwell time or
for you, it's about clicking to see more, right? If I can just summarize, like, it's about coming up with that line that's going to click them to see more. And then you need to take action, right? In an ideal world. And if I could, maybe if we can just key in on one thing really quick, then the key, and again, you said this, a reshare is worth more than a comment, and comment is worth more than interaction. From our own data, we've seen that. What have you seen be the highest reshare? Like, what's the stuff that gets people to like, like, wow, I got to share this with my network, you know?
So it's where you build up towards a story and it ends with some kind of dramatic, it has to be positive too, right? Some positive, because LinkedIn especially, it can't be something
it's gotta be positive.
It has to be a positive affirmation where the little guy wins, because the unemployed mom who couldn't get a job, she, this other guy helped her out, and because of that, she's now successful, and everyone can identify with that. Think of yourself as a Hollywood scriptwriter. You need to end on that high point, and either it ends with a call to action, which is not share it, which is like if you ask people,
never that, no ask,
right? But you ask people, what do you think? You ask people, if you were in that situation, how would you feel? And it needs to be a simple ask. A lot of people, they'll have a great post. They will then almost end it with a question, which is, it has to be simple. Can't be, do you think we should go like this or like that? Or something that requires a lot of thinking. It has to be very simple, where they can just say yes or amen, or that's amazing. It just has to be very simple. And then they wreck it, because after that question, then they continue, they just can't help themselves, but they continue talking and they lose it, right? So the call to action needs to be the very last word, the very last sentence, right? Because that's the last thing that people are going to remember. If you do that, you're going to get 50%, maybe even 100% more engagement on your post. Just that one thing. The other piece is at the very beginning, to be able to sequence them into the click see more to see the rest of the post, because you have the 2 lines. It could be, of the 10 most common causes of death among people in Austin, the number 1 cause is, and then that's exactly where the see more ... is. And people are like, what is it? What is it? Right? So it's kind of a cliffhanger. That's not the same thing as clickbait, or the whole, and you won't believe what happens next. Or, you know what I mean? The BuzzFeed kind of clickbaity kinds of things. There are ways to do clickbait-ish kinds of things without false teasing them into clicking something. Right?
That's right. And I think, how do you, so it sounds like it's this mix, like you said, LinkedIn, we've noticed this too, right? It's like overly positive. And it's like there's a whole subculture of LinkedIn that's like, if anyone says anything negative about a post, then they go in there and just, oh, this is a place to share. And that's where I am also a little worried about it. Honestly, the ability to go viral on LinkedIn because of
there's a manual penalty. Josh and I are pretty sure about it, where
tell me more.
There are tricks that we have tried. For example, we used to write Broetry all the time, and we knew that I could get posts to 500,000. Not that was my main goal, but I was just testing.
Yeah.
And I could do it off of small profiles too. I did it off of people who had brand new profiles just by using this and cross-referencing. And making another tip, for example, is how you can have 50 skills listed on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Max that out to the 50, and your top 5, make sure that those have 100 plus, and that will affect what shows up in your newsfeed and who engages on your content. Isn't that neat to think endorsements after the algorithm?
So the skills that you have, because again, man, I've had LinkedIn since 2000, like maybe 7 or 8 early, right?
Yeah.
And so I've got all these endorsements, for sales and CRM and things like that. So it sounds like if you instead switch it to leadership, entrepreneurship,
what do you want to be known for? Yeah, and that's why.
Look at that.
Right?
I'm gonna write down a note.
Try it.
That is how impactful that was. Like, I'm taking a note right now.
Try it. Larry Kim and I have tested this. So think about when you when you have a new connection and you scroll to their profile. What's that first thing it says there? Who would you go to for, or what would you, when you think of Jake, what do you think of? Microsoft Excel, being able to lift heavy objects. That's terrible.
Please don't think of me for that.
They're asking you that because they want to figure out what to prioritize for your newsfeed and his, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It makes sense. And it's so primitive that it's
because it's jobs based, right? And that's what a lot of people don't realize about LinkedIn is LinkedIn, and there's nothing that's proprietary. Their talent solutions is still the biggest business.
Yeah.
And so they're still prioritized for jobs.
Yeah. So don't have in your LinkedIn skills, which is not the same thing as recommendations. Endorsements, a lot of people get that confused. Don't have things like Microsoft Excel and customer service and those kinds of things that people put in there initially when they were a teenager, right?
Okay.
Jeff Weiner, who's the CEO of LinkedIn, was my boss at Yahoo, which is kind of funny. And I can see how what he's done with LinkedIn is a carryover from the things because he ran search at Yahoo, right? Yep. I can see how he's carried a lot of that over into LinkedIn. And if you want to be really smart, I'm biased here, to think about engagement on LinkedIn and reach and dwell time and all these other factors that calculate a composite score for each post, think about what the search engines are doing, and you won't be far off from the truth.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been going, just so you know, I've been checking out your feed too, and like taking a look at some of your tests. And I think what's important here is that, look, not everybody on here wants to be a LinkedIn influencer, right? Not everyone on here is trying to hack the algorithm. But with that being said, I do think it's also important, like, one, for you to be a smarter consumer of information. I think a lot of people don't quite get that piece either. They're like, I'm like, I don't think some people are the smartest consumers. So like, oh, wow. Like, he really meant that. Like, the interesting part you said about is like reposting or copy and paste. Yeah. Ryan Staley says that he will endorse me for Broetry. Ryan, I think I keep it. I think I try to mix it in every once in a while. The key thing for me is diversification. Like, if you really build an audience, and like you sucked about, it's like, it's video, it's short form, it's this. It's the type of content, because what I feel like is going to happen with LinkedIn, I'll be interested to get your take. Like you said, I think there's a penalty. Here's the thing. And I talk to all the other sales influencers in our own little bubble. And these guys might have 70,000 or some of them have 300,000 followers. I have never seen a single one of them with like a 5,000 like post. Not anymore. Not any. Exactly.
I used to get that all day long. Take my and scroll back 3 years ago and see how many I got.
Exactly. Because then you were like one of like 0.005%. But now I think that there is they made that change. I think it was like maybe 10 months ago, when they started giving the voice to the little guy to try to encourage. And I don't know if you saw this change in the algorithm. We saw the change in the algorithm where they decided to start to over promote people with small followings to try to get more people being active. Yeah. That to me And my team and I, we were talking about this. I want to get your take on it. For a lot of you, you also maybe follow me on YouTube. We've got a few hundred videos up on YouTube. But what the epiphany I've been having is if the goal is to build brand, I don't think you can do it on LinkedIn right now. I think LinkedIn has a ceiling because of the way that they distribute content. And I feel like LinkedIn has, if you are trying to establish yourself as a thought leader, LinkedIn could be great for like a subsegment. But how does a CEO or executive really use LinkedIn? They go, they check out a few things here or there. They're not interested in that stuff, but when do they go to YouTube, right? When they're interested in learning about or binging on whatever it is.
Right.
For me, we are really starting to make, and my team, and I caught up with, Ali Ray on my team this afternoon. I really feel like I don't think you can build a huge brand on LinkedIn. I think it'd be interesting. And I think to some people are like, whoa, that's huge. Jake, what do you mean? You have a huge brand. Yeah. I'm saying the ability for me to turn into the Kevin Hart of LinkedIn, I think is the algorithm makes it very difficult for you to be able to do that. And that's just an analogy. But how do you think about that, Dennis? Like you said, it used to work. It used to be, we could get thousands of posts, hundreds of thousands, but I feel like now LinkedIn has changed to where it's almost impossible to build a big audience.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, they started making some of those big changes. But for me and most of the folks we work with, we're not trying to become Richard Branson. We just want to drive more sales. So do you want to be an influencer so you can sell consulting, or do you actually want to drive influence in the micro niche that you want to be able to dominate? If I had to choose between keeping LinkedIn or keeping Facebook, I would choose LinkedIn.
Yep.
Right. And just no offense, we've spent $1 billion on ads on Facebook. So Facebook is fantastic.
You're like, I get it. I know the algorithm.
What Jeff Weiner said was Facebook is where you go to waste time, and LinkedIn is where you go to invest time. And because there's that higher level of professionalism where the content has to be oriented around positive growth and employment and skills and becoming better, and not like some stupid car chase cop, rioter video, gunshot, whatever it is. It's just not that kind of place. It's definitely more professional. It's not as buttoned up as it was like resume, talent solution stuff like it was a few years ago. But if you have a business goal, I still think LinkedIn is fantastic. Another thing that I confirmed with AJ Wilcox and some of the other LinkedIn folks is that you can still game the LinkedIn algo by creating a company page that's in your name. So if we create the Jake Dunlap company page, so there's your company, then there's the Jake Dunlap company page, which is not your profile. That's the equivalent of the Facebook public figure. And thus you can run ads against it. Because
have you seen people doing this well? I just started to see a recruiter doing this. I literally just saw this.
It works well because people think it's a profile. It looks like a profile. It behaves like a profile, but you have ads and analytics. And that means you can target. LinkedIn still allows us to target by job title, where people work, by their interest, with custom audiences. You can do before and after. You can have testimonials. You can do all that stuff you can't do on Google and Facebook.
Yeah. And I think can you do it from a showcase page too? Can you create a showcase? Like, let's say it was Scaled. Yeah. Can I create a showcase page that looks like a company page and do the same with that?
I don't know why you would. You're going to get way more resonance, especially if you're telling stories and creating content the way we're talking about. If it comes from a public figure page, which is one that is your name, in other words,
it looks like it. I get it.
Right? That's what I'm trying to say, and that's what's worked incredibly well on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And I think if they realize this, then the game will be up. I don't consider this black hat. I consider this still completely white hat, because I flew into Mountain View and spent time with LinkedIn talking about this particular tactic, and said it was okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got a question here. I think this is a really good one. I get a lot of people, and we work with clients on this too, talking about a company page, and how to try to get any engagement. And I think for us, we talk a lot about it's treating it like it's a personal page, right? It's treating it like it has a personality. It's treating it like it has an opinion, like it has a voice.
Don't make it look like an ad.
What'd you say?
Don't make it look like an ad. Make it look like it's something that Jake said, and make it look like it's from Jake, and then retarget from, drive people from there onto a website or into another video, or I think videos like what Alan Gannett is doing when he's interviewing all these other people. Right? Tell stories, have cell phone style videos, that will do really well. I've seen lots and lots of company pages that fail because they look like ads. They're driving to, download this thing, or here's my, fill out the form. And that is just a really bad first touch. LinkedIn hasn't confirmed it, but I would think that there are negative quality filters when people scroll past or they mark someone as spam, or I haven't got confirmation, but I'm pretty sure they're doing that.
Right. It's like anti-dwell time.
like on Facebook, when someone there's 4 kinds of negative feedback on Facebook. There's hide post, hide all posts, report spam, and unlike page. Those count for -100 as a weighting in the newsfeed. A likes 1 point, comments 6, shares 13, and negative feedback's -100. I would think LinkedIn's doing the same thing.
Interesting. But yeah, and I think with company pages, people, again, like you said, people are nice at least, right? They probably just like scroll on by. Do you feel like, so going back to a few questions here about, a couple of people have a question about ads, like, do you run ads? Have you tried the company human as a company page option yet?
It works really well. Our CPMs are way cheaper. Of course, LinkedIn, you have the $10 daily budget, and then they do set kind of a floor on CPM and cost per click. I mean, we get it down to like $4, and maybe the CPM is like $20 or something like that. So there is,
which is getting it down for LinkedIn. If you guys don't know, 20 CPM is kind of bonkers for any other site.
It is, but there's a floor. So LinkedIn has confirmed to us that there is an actual floor.
Wow.
And in the same way, that's why the min budget, the min daily budget at $10 is there. The big argument that I had when I was at Yahoo was like, well, why would we set a 5-cent CPC floor? We should allow people to bid a penny or 2 pennies, right? And let the algorithm determine what was garbage. And the other folks at Search, like Jeff and Dan Rosenzweig, who was our COO, said, no, if they're not bidding at least a nickel, then they're not showing that they're serious. It's signaling. And I said, because all the other networks allow for $1 a day, which is how we came up with the $1 a day strategy. I said LinkedIn should relax that. That would have let more people come in at $1 a day. Yeah. Oh no, but we want companies that it can spend at least 10 because they're serious. This isn't a consumer kind of thing. Plus, the more ads that are in the system, the more ad load there is for review, right? Because then we have to review it, and we can't catch it through the AI because we're not as smart as the other guys are. Microsoft hasn't caught up on that piece, but I think they'll have to relent on that eventually.
Yeah, Thomas, it's literally someone just dropped in. Are you at a point where you try $1 a day on LinkedIn? And the answer
is you can do $1 a day on LinkedIn, but you have to trick the system by having a really tight custom audience and
exactly. So where it can
and duplicating campaigns over and over again because their system isn't smart enough to realize you're duplicating that campaign.
Right,
so it's
exactly.
rank every time you do that.
So it's $10 or $20, but then it's the campaign parameters are so tight.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So John Blake just dropped in a comment here, and you touched on this before. He says, hopefully LinkedIn stays higher level content. I'll toss my predictions out there from time to time. What is your thought on this about LinkedIn staying high level?
Marketers eventually ruin everything.
Yes.
That's how it is. Look, anything that's nice, if once the marketers come in, it's like a cool place that now your mom has found out about. It's not cool anymore.
Yeah. But how about this, Dennis? This could be the first time in history it's the opposite. It's a cool place your kids found out about. I literally think that LinkedIn could be the only opposite platform where it's like what's going to happen is the kids come in and they're like, what is this, man? This is boring, right? This is
There's
boring.
There's honeypots on LinkedIn. Their system isn't smart enough to filter out spam.
Yeah, that's right? So it's super
you see
interesting.
Those attractive women, then you find that same image has been used like 50 times, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was the old school play. The old school play, I used to know people, this is back in like mid 2000s, mid to early 2010s. So let's call it like between 2012 and 2015. What they would do is they go build a robot army. And now it's so prevalent, but this was back in the day for lead gen. And it would be 22-year-old women doing outbound SDR work for XYZ tech company. These were tech companies trying to game this system and doing this stuff. And now, we're almost there, right? Like to where I think people kind of get it now. Well, but still we're not there yet. We're still at step. I feel like LinkedIn as a true social network, I still like it's Facebook 2008, 2009. I feel like there's so much like opportunity and again, organic growth that still lives here.
Yeah.
So what format, this is a good question. What format of ads? Is there an ad type that you all have seen? There's obviously, again, the good part about running a company page is you can add followers, right?
Yep.
LinkedIn's the only social network where you can't pay to add followers as a public figure, right? So you can't double down. A piece of content does well, you can't double down. You know what I mean? Like LinkedIn's the only platform. Like on Instagram, a post does well, I can double down, boom, post goes up. On any other platform, what are some of those, whether it's ad units you're using, whether it's other strategies, like what else have you seen people use on LinkedIn to kind of double down? I love this idea. I love this team. I want to copy and paste this idea. When I have a post that does well, I want everybody to post it.
Yeah.
Just copy and paste. Everybody in the network, just copy and paste it. Don't even, and then all eyes lead back to Scaled. So that's already an idea I have. What are some other ideas,
Boost on a company page. It's called Jake Dunlap, and the same names of all your other employees. And use it as a sponsored post because that looks as organic as possible. It looks like a person has done it. And then when you put all that content into the structure we call the topic wheel, then it lives forever. If you have a good story, you would let it run at $10 a day forever. And then you can adjust that ad where you keep rotating in different audiences. You keep rotating in other posts inside that ad set or campaign, and then you're building momentum. That's simply what people need to do. I don't think you need to use these other units. I mean, you can sponsor.
Which unit? Do you mean the feed unit, or do you mean because there's now, and then there's a new one, a conversation ad unit. I don't know if you've seen this thing. That thing looks like garbage to me, but
it needs to look as organic as possible. Same thing with Twitter, right? So we like to do promoted posts on Twitter because those are literally organic posts that we're pushing that have a very small gray. This is a promoted thing, right? And LinkedIn is that very small gray thing where it's an ad, but otherwise it doesn't look like an ad. It shows up in the second position, every time when you scroll. That's how that's where the ads are. And I don't think LinkedIn is going to recognize that this is a way to game their system for at least another couple of years. So I think this is going to last for quite some time. All of the tricks that we could go over all the different techniques on how to game the system, and they'll change over time because LinkedIn keeps shutting doors, especially when I mention these things. Eventually they'll shut the doors. But here's the one thing to know. As long as you're making stuff that looks like a profile would have made it, then that's that's where your edge is for winning on LinkedIn.
Yep. And do you feel like are there? So we talked a little bit about the company pages. I want to talk about that just a little bit more because I think there's a lot. We've got some marketers on here, et cetera, that are, always trying to figure this out. If you're a marketer in a normal B2B company, let's say you're just a normal marketer, not a huge ad budget.
Sure.
How would you get better engagement? Because let me tell you what I see, Dennis. I see a lot of marketers treat LinkedIn organic as a throwaway because in their minds they equate it to the same traffic as Facebook. Right. They don't realize that LinkedIn organic traffic is the cheapest traffic on the internet. And I see so many marketers just fucking clueless, man, that they just don't realize, that there's such an opportunity. So what would you say to a corporate marketing person who's like still there? They're still, they're still not quite like actually dedicating time to that.
Yep. Do the exact opposite of what you'd expect a corporate marketer to do. So what is a corporate marketer going to do? Sign up for our webinar, fill out this form to get this white paper. Here's some professional thing where a vice president got promoted. We have this new product. So what's the opposite? Interviews where you are saying, congratulations to Jake on achieving this milestone. Or I just, we've been at home for the last 4 months and here's a cool exercise that I'm doing with my kids. And we're now rotating in our pods because, I'm taking Tuesdays and Sally's taking Wednesdays, and here's what we're doing, or here's a trick that we use at the grocery store, or here's something that appears a little bit more personal instead of pure corporate. And that means making things like 1-minute cell phone videos. If you don't want to do that, then any content that's being created by your CEO, by your head of marketing, by maybe a key engineer in your company, or somebody they don't have to be super prominent, chop up pieces of that. Cross-post something that they made on Twitter or Facebook and share that and do it in a way where you're honoring them. Wow, congratulations on so-and-so for having been at the company for 5 years. That's amazing. Or
customers, right? Customers. Yeah. This is so amazing. Our client just saw XYZ, but you do it in a way that's not promoted.
Don't make it look like
have the customer do it. It's from your customer. Talk to your customer and have your customer do the selfie video.
Yeah,
that's the post.
Yeah. And then lead in with the emotional thing, such as, oh, by the way, in the first sentence, lead in with something like this morning or earlier this afternoon, or something where it shows that it's very recent. Don't say such and such. Don't say, hey, here's the best 3 tips on how to do lead gen. Like, no one wants to hear that, right? Mm-hmm. But say, earlier this afternoon, I couldn't believe what Jake said to me on the podcast. He told me these were the top 3 ways to, now it's the same content, but I dressed up by.
It's relevant. It wasn't planned. Dennis, it wasn't planned, right? Or it's like this morning, we had 2 people cry when a customer sent us this video.
Yeah. So you did 2 things there. A is you set the time frame as immediate because it just happened. And then B, you wove in the emotional context. So you know why your LinkedIn posts fail? Anyone else who's listening here? It's because of those things, but the weaving in the emotional context, look at any of my posts or anyone else's posts who's doing well on LinkedIn, and the first 2 sentences, you'll almost always find an emotional payload because of how they felt. So fine, maybe somebody won something, maybe you achieved a milestone, maybe you didn't lay anyone off, or maybe like whatever it was, but always like, how did you feel about that? So always lead with how you felt about something that happened before you go into the thing that happened.
That's good. That's a simple one. So tactical takeaway from Dennis, always about how someone felt or how you felt. How did you feel?
How they felt, how you felt.
That's right.
You have to start with that.
That's right.
That's what's going to draw them to the see more. And then that gives you momentum into then describing what happened. But always tell it in the same way that you're telling a personal friend, not you're making a speech as a corporate PR brochure.
It's so spot on, man. It's so funny. So I just pulled up. So we use Shield Analytics, which is an analytics platform we white label, and I was looking through top posts like over the last 6 months, and it's like, as a VP of sales, there's nearly a 0.00% chance you're going to make it 4 years. So why does everyone want to be a VP of sales? Like getting blamed for underdeveloped product. Can't believe that you struggled to triple revenue this year and add 40 new people. It's all about, and then there's like you said, then there's
struggle. You see that word struggle implies so much.
The positive at the end.
Yeah.
But it's all worth it when you blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Number 3 post. I remember crying in my car, right? Yeah. I'm just so all of you know, I'm just pulled up right now. I've been in sales now for 17 years, and the last 6 weeks has been hard, right? This is right into COVID. I'm telling you, it's the biggest opportunity for growth you may ever have. Yeah. And so you can kind of see this theme. And again, I'm just pulling up our own analytics here in real time. There's a lot of similarities. It's a lot of what I've noticed is a lot of I, me, my. It's from me. You know what I mean? It's not like someone else. It's not like hypothetical advice, right? It's like, this is me. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle though, Dennis, is that thought of putting I said this, I feel this, I am this. Mm-hmm. That is where people struggle.
Yeah.
Right? Like they struggle on that.
So you want to be specific without giving away personal details. So it's kind of a trick. I had a post where I said, my friend Amir came to me in tears because he got laid off and he has 5 kids and he doesn't know how he's going to pay his bills at the end of the month. Right. Mm-hmm. I said Amir, but it could be any Amir. It could be John. It could be Peter. It could be whoever.
Let me ask you this, Dennis. Was there an Amir?
There actually was.
Okay, good. All right. I kind of wanted there to be an Amir just in case. I'm like, please be an Amir.
But for the sake of protecting the innocent, sometimes I will change.
Yeah, I'm good with that. You tweak the name, that's fine. But there is
but everything I'm saying actually happened.
Okay, good.
And so I'll lead in with that story, and I'll say, and because of that, I realized how important it is to train up other people when they're stuck at home and they can't work, but they want to work. And then, so I've set the situation. There's emotional context. As I said, how I felt about, my heart sunk because I know that Amir, he's got 5 kids. I can't imagine how that must feel, right? So I set that. I know this sounds manipulative, doesn't it? But I'm telling you, this is actually what you have to do, okay? It sounds like...
Look, Dennis, before you go deeper, okay, I'm just going to preface this for everybody. Okay, I talk about this. Look, I am a sales leader and sales professional for 17 plus years. Well, even if you go back to when I did telemarketing for, let's call it almost 20.
Yeah.
Look, it is about understanding psychology, and it's manipulative if you don't believe that there's benefit, if you don't believe that there's service, if you don't believe in what you're doing. That's when it becomes manipulative. And I think, look, and I say this to every salesperson. I know John Blake's in the office right now. Some of the rest of you are in the office. if you don't, your job is to get people uncomfortable and to do things that are challenging. If it was just information giving, my friends, everybody would be doing it. Whether it's about LinkedIn posting, sales, if the job was simply the person who could give information, okay, sales wouldn't exist, social media, none of this would exist. It'd be a boring ass life. And so, Dennis, there is nothing wrong. Joel, what's up, brother? Joel, there's nothing wrong with any of this shit. That if you are in sales, your job is to make people uncomfortable. If you are posting on social media, don't you want more people? If you believe in your message,
that's right,
you want more people to see it. That's all we're talking about. That's all we're talking about. Right. And so anyway, I have to preface that for all my sellers out there that I get so sick and tired at times of people talking about what sales is supposed to be. And I'm like, guys, no, sales is supposed to be getting people uncomfortable. Marketing is supposed to be changing your opinion. You know, like this is the game. Like I wish that, again, what's that book? Predictably Irrational, right? It's like, yes. I wish people were rational. It would be great. Oh my God, if I could just say, guys, 1 + 1 = 2 and you would buy, holy shit. You know, I would have no stress. I'd have no anything, but that's not life. That's not life. So anyway, Dennis, back to your story. I just had to go on a little tie right there.
No, that's absolutely true. So you set the emotional stage, which is not manipulative, but is necessary to be able to hook people in. You could have the most amazing steak, but if you put it in a cardboard box, people are just not going to pay attention to it, right? So the wrapper does matter. So the emotional wrapper is necessary to pull people in. And then you have to find a way to tie that into a feature or benefit or mission or vision that you have. So in the case of Amir, who lost his job and has to, you know, his 5 kids, then I'll say, and I realized how important it is to train our people. And thus I gave him access to our training that normally we charge $7,000 for, but and so here's the other thing that you can do. When you do some kind of selfless act of giving, when you help out people and it becomes like a newsworthy kind of thing, or you're one of my friends, actually a bunch of my friends have started doing this now. They adopt a local restaurant and they give the restaurant owner $100 and say, this is a tab. Anyone who mentions my name, XYZ company, right? They get a free meal on me. So if they're a nurse, if they're a doctor, if they're an ambulance person, a policeman, frontline worker, come in and mention my company name or me, and then, you know, they can eat for me, you know, eat on my tab, right? When there's stories of selfless giving, those things in the last 3 months, it's to the point, like one guy came up to me last week and he told me that he started using this and he had picture after picture in front of these restaurants where he spent only $100, and he is getting ridiculous reach on LinkedIn and Facebook from doing this. And he's not mentioning his company name. He's not mentioning that, like, this one guy's a chiropractor. I know another one who's a mortgage broker doing the exact same thing. And by the way, you might think that, that only works in local retail. It works in any area. I've done it many times, not to manipulate, but just because to test, where I've given stuff away, where I've said, so-and-so is in a difficult situation, and here I just went ahead and did this thing without expecting anything. And that's the kind of stuff where you get 500 likes.
Yeah. And the key is that it's clear there's no ask. And it's like, yeah, it's not like, and then you can sign up too, right? Like you can't have that. You can't have the like, and then you can sign up.
Yep. So the generous act, I would argue there is nothing more powerful on LinkedIn than that type of post right now.
Yeah. I've noticed that, especially around career advice. I've seen, because of everything that's happening, you know, it's like, hey, hiring managers, give these people a chance. You know, it's like, hey, hiring manager.
Right? You can't just say, like, this is what I believe. You have to say, you know, Jenny, she called me and she's circulated her resume all over the place and couldn't get in. But then I went ahead, you know, I sat down with her and we redid her resume, and now all these good things happened. Right?
Oh, that's right. And hiring managers, we've got to give people a chance right now.
Yeah.
You know,
but you need to tell the story before you say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell the story, then you're preaching at people.
That's right. And that doesn't play, for sure. Even if, you know, there's at times when I want to preach. Sometimes I do preach, even though I know it's not going to pander to more people. So Dennis, this is awesome, dude. I really enjoyed this, because what I like about you as a marketer is, as a salesperson, I can relate, right? I can relate as a sales leader.
Yeah.
To an understanding and appreciation of it, you know, of the craft of taking this seriously, or at least testing. And I think that's just the important mindset for a lot of people is it's about testing and do what feels good. If it doesn't feel good and you don't feel good, don't do it. You know, if you learn some things here, fantastic. If it doesn't feel great, then fantastic. So we're going to wrap up, but Dennis, maybe one, you know, if you're somebody, and let's say you're a normal and let's just, like, let's say you're a marketing manager at a company, and then maybe two scenarios. So you're a marketing manager at a company, scenario one. If you're a VP of sales at a company, scenario two. How would you approach LinkedIn? How would you, and we've talked a lot about it, but maybe just some parting advice for everybody. Let's take the marketing angle, the company angle, let's take the individual angle. What is kind of your last, pro tip here?
Make 15-second videos that every day where you are sharing one piece of good news, or where you're congratulating somebody, or you heard that someone else succeeded. And it doesn't have to be self-serving as in someone who's an employee or a customer.
Right.
Anyone in your industry that's doing well. They shared an interesting article. It made you think about something. You woke up in the morning and you went through your morning routine and you realized how grateful you are that you have a great team and you have a job and you have kids and you're healthy, right? Those things that show that you are a person of character is called virtue signaling. So if you are a VP of sales, that's going to help attract the right people to you. If you're a marketing manager, it's going to then make it so that your colleagues are more willing to follow your strategy of sharing company content. And this is something I don't see on LinkedIn because people think that that's a Facebook kind of thing. But you and I, Jake, know that the lines have blurred because of coronavirus. We can now share I'm not saying, talk about all the fears you have or how you want to commit suicide or your mom died, or I'm not saying anything like that, right? But share something that gives insight into what you believe in a 15-second video that's done vertically on your phone, and use that same 15-second video when you're replying to LinkedIn messages, reply with a video. Did you know you could do that? Do that. You can reuse things that you took from your Instagram, but it could be the same video or whatnot, but when you preface it with the headline, use the technique that we're talking about to make it more professional. So you can reuse stuff all day long. If you do that, LinkedIn is going to be your best friend, and organically it's going to do really well. Then you can take that same content, cross-post it to the Jake Dunlap company page and use it to drive leads.
Yeah. I think what I love about that is that it's about humans telling stories. And I think the consistent theme that you've heard is that people want to hear from other people, and people want to hear other value. People want to hear stories from other people. They want to hear authentic stories.
That's right.
And I think
on video, not stock art, not someone else. If you're the VP and you'd rather have the CEO or a marketing manager do it, you need to do it yourself to set the example. And I've heard every single excuse for why people won't point the phone at their face to make that little video. Do that, and everything is on the other side of that fear.
That's right. I love that. And I think all of you out there, if you haven't made video, just try it. And guess what? For most of you, I guess your posts aren't getting shit for interaction anyway. So who cares?
People aren't, buying from you because, look, I tell people I have a face made for radio. So if I could write sales of a search engine engineer who specializes in writing algorithms and managing big databases can get traction on LinkedIn, certainly you can, because I'm not even a sales and marketing, right?
But you have value. That's the key, right? You've got specific value to add, and that's what's up for everybody. I love it. All right, everyone, look, I really appreciate all of you. We just dropped a quick link in here about our kind of like 3 tips to like building like a brand. I think all of you just go check that out. It's just free. You can have the resource. And so check that out in the link. You should have just got it. You might have to scroll up. Melissa, let's see. It took me a while to find the link. That's the shitty part about LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Live is a perfect example of LinkedIn Live does not allow you to plan shit. You cannot create a reoccurring invite to where if I wanted to do the same LinkedIn Live shit at the same time, I can't do it. And that's why this platform, I think, has got so much. The good part is like when you're in early, once it starts to be able to do these things, I think there's going to be a big benefit, And I don't know. I mean, obviously, again, it's about video. It allows you to connect with people, allows me to connect with people. And yes, I know it's not going to get 1 billion likes or whatever it is, but it's about creating a different level of interaction with your audience. And I think that's what all of you have to think about, that you all have a group of people you want to communicate with. This is about creating a better, interaction with them. So Dennis, I appreciate it, man. We dropped your link in there. Go follow Dennis. You're going to test him. And then here's what I want you to do. The next time you see Dennis post, I want you to just share is this a test? ? Is this a test?
Yeah.
I love it, dude. Well, thanks again, everyone. Appreciate you tuning in on a Monday night. I know it's getting late for you, Dennis. Go have a glass of wine or a beer or something. And for the rest of you, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
See you guys on LinkedIn. I'm accepting your friend requests.
There you go.